Welcome to the UFO Traffic Report for Tuesday, March 7, 2017. First up, a Pennsylvania witness at Gettysburg reported watching a fast-moving bright object moving overhead under 1,000 feet that could not be identified, according to testimony in case 82360. The witness was outside on a front porch at 4 a.m., February 26, 2017, smoking a cigarette when the object was first noticed. Quote, "Direction of light was southwest," the witness stated. Speed would guess somewhere in the range of 800 miles per hour and up, traveling very low, but not so fast you couldn't keep track of it. Shape was a straight line with a slight curve, was still dark, so you couldn't get a good look at it. Brightness was very, very bright, maybe as bright or brighter than one of those 1,000,000-watt candle power flashlights. Length, if you would have held up a yardstick to it, it probably would have covered it. The witness guessed the object was between 800 to 1,000 feet long. Quote, "Maneuvering, I saw this bright line of lights coming from the southeast, heading directly over Gettysburg at least 800 to 1,000 feet up. I thought it was a jet or plane, so kept watching it because of how very low it was and had all these lights in a row. It then turned slightly, heading my direction, which was northerly, but just a few seconds in its turn, it turned right back toward a southwest direction toward Fairfield with no difficulties whatsoever for the size of the craft." The witness did detect some sound associated with the craft. Quote, "A very low humming sound. At first I thought it could have been a large jet, but at that close of a distance and height, the engines would have been roaring, and most definitely you would have been able to identify it as being a jet. Appearance, all I could say, it was a basic line with a slight curve with at least 10 to 12 lights, all bright white, no red, no blue, and none blinking." Pennsylvania MUFON field investigator Josh Laird is investigating. Gettysburg is a borough in the county seat of Adams County, Pennsylvania, population 7620. Next up, a Virginia witness at Stafford reported watching and photographing a bright white light hovering under 500 feet above a nearby tree line. This according to testimony in 82365. The witness was standing beside his home at 9:35 p.m., February 25, 2017, and used a cell phone camera to take images. Quote, "I noticed a bright white light object hovering above the school parking lot, lighting possibly further behind the parking lot over scattered homes in a wooded area lot," the witness stated. The object appeared about 1,250 yards away. The witness stood on a deck taking photographs of the unknown object. Quote, "The light was silent and made no sound. It was there longer than 40 minutes. I thought maybe it was a helicopter or plane coming toward me, giving the illusion of a stationary light, but it just stayed hovering for a long time with no change in size or dimension." The witness said that enlarging the photo, you can see a bright V shape uncharacteristic of an airplane or helicopter. He also believed the object could be a stealth fighter with the V shape. Quote, "But the V is the entire frontal length of the aircraft. A stealth doesn't have a long V like that. If you enlarge the picture, the V appears to be the propulsion system with a Saturn-like ring around the object's middle with a dome-like top, and what appears to be an energy field or force field around the craft, possibly a potential cloaking device." The witness seems to be positive the object cannot be identified. Quote, "After careful review of the photograph, I am convinced what I witnessed that night was either a U.S. government project, and that's okay, or a true alien spacecraft. You can see a day photograph taken in the same place as the UFO photograph the night prior and can see the parking lot lights of the school in relation to the UFO. My wife also witnessed that object with me, and she thinks she may have seen it again later that night, but it's slightly moved to the right." Virginia Star Team investigator Norm Gagnon investigated the case and closed it as an unknown. Quote, The photo shows the anomaly being a bright white light only, but if it had other colors like red or green, and possibly being flown from a school's parking lot, it could have been a drone. However, the battery life for these commercial drones are 15 to 20 minutes long, and the sighting was 45 minutes. This from Gagnon's official report with MUFON. Gagnon then closed the case, quote, "It is my belief that what the witness saw and captured with his Samsung SMN910A camera was an unidentified object. However, as to his evaluation of what he determines to be a V-shaped craft, along with other related details, is speculative. As you zoom in on this bright object, there are lens reflection artifact within blurry pixels. Similar artifacts were also seen when you zoom in at the street light below. Stafford is the county seat of Stafford County, population 4320. And finally tonight, a Utah witness at Wellington recalled a UFO encounter from 2013 where a 3-story tall, triangle-shaped object about 600 feet long moved silently overhead while being followed by black helicopters, according to testimony in case 82397. The incident occurred beginning at approximately 1:15 a.m. October 11, 2013, when the witness was finished working for the night as a tanker driver and had returned home. Quote, "I parked my truck and began a post-trip inspection," the witness stated. "I then climbed up the ladder to the top of the tanker, placing me approximately 12 feet off the ground and my added height approximately 18 feet in the air." The witness then vented his tank. Quote, "While on top of the tank, I looked southwest and observed 2 very bright lights, as if they were on a plane. I also observed marker lights on both sides, red. I thought this odd, as planes have red and green. I thought that was unusual, as it was the wrong approach for a plane going to our municipal airport. But the object continued to get larger as it got closer." Quote, "In about 4 to 5 minutes, I observed coming at me a giant triangle with the large top triangle and a smaller triangle under the top, each being approximately 3 stories tall at 15 feet a story. The ship began to pass me overhead at approximately a 60-degree angle above me and about 400 to 500 feet above. The sky was very bright and clear, approximately 35 to 38 degrees. The sky moonlight lit the craft up very well. As the craft was passing overhead, the witness began to count 1,001, 1,002, up to 1,007, then 1,008. Quote, "During this time, I saw body panels that had been shaped to form the ship's structure. I could see the panels were butted together in sections, but not how, meaning I couldn't see welds or rivets, only large panels. The craft was a silver metallic associated with aluminum or stainless. The craft's color was weathered and staining in downward lines on the entire body. There were no windows anywhere on the length of the craft. There were 3 solid red lights on the craft at front, middle, and rear. The giant front headlights were fixtures hanging down and facing forward. They reminded me of the large Hollywood lights that shine upward into the sky. The ship had no sound of a motor or propulsion as the craft was passing, only the sound of wind being displaced. No exhaust outlet could be seen on the rear, just quiet. I estimated the craft to be 300 yards long by 200 yards wide, extremely huge. As the craft continued to the north by northeast in approximately 5 to 7 seconds, the witness then heard helicopters. Quote, "But the normal sound of rotary wash was only a half sound, very stealthy. 2 Cobra helicopters came into view. Both appeared to be banking to fall in behind the ship, not a sharp bank, but a gradual bank. The choppers were totally black, no markings, no numbers visible, armament could be seen. The flying lights were on and flashing. One of the choppers came very close to the witness. Quote, the closest chopper to me, also at a 60-degree angle, was very close above me. I could see the instrument lights reflecting on his windows, orange and bright green. I could make out his white helmet. In disbelief at what I had just seen, and now seeing the choppers, it seemed surreal. I waved. The pilot waved back. I was in shock. I watched the craft and choppers go through a local mountain pass. The craft's width as it passed through the pass had a very narrow margin to get through as it was so big. Later on, in talking with law enforcement officers on duty the same night, they told me they had seen the ship also and were driving towards my location to get a better view. So their sighting was at a different viewpoint, but comments were made to me of how huge the craft was. No images were included with the MUFON report, which was filed February 27, 2017. Utah MUFON State Director Stan Seba is investigating. There were no other triangle UFOs reported in Utah during October 2013. Nationally, MUFON received one other triangle report for the same date, October 11, 2013. Case 51485 occurred approximately 17 hours later in 1,300 miles southeast of Wellington, Utah, in Conway, Arkansas. In that case, a witness and his mother were driving southbound along Salem Road in Conway and noticed a low flying object moving over a nearby field about 8:02 p.m. Eastern Time, October 11, 2013. Quote, we first noticed it while heading east on York Lane off to the north, or to the skies on our left, the witness stated. At this point, it was just a spotlight floating in the sky and appeared to be slowly turning east as it was facing south at first sight. I do not put much stock in lights in the sky, so I wrote it off as a helicopter using a spotlight. Then we turned north off York Lane onto South Salem. When we passed a red brick house on the left, I saw a triangle-shaped craft between 50 and 75 feet off the ground. The witness stated that at first he could not make sense of what he was looking at. Quote, then I looked and it changed shape a second later as we were at this point directly under it. I screamed at Mother to stop the car so I could get iPhone footage of it, but she was terrified and looked at it once but refused to take a second look and even sped up to avoid it. The witness then stuck his head out the window and watched it, quote, roll upward with no forward momentum. Quote, then it stopped and I could see it plain as day as there was a 3/4 moon directly behind it. There was a line of cars behind us, so someone else had to have seen it. I can only hope others saw it and will report what they saw to provide validity to what we witnessed. Last I saw of it, it was heading toward the west on a path that I am certain would have taken it directly over Novella, Arkansas, which is on the west side of the river from our position at that time. I believe I lost some time. Please note the craft moved off at a slow, steady rate of approximately 20 miles an hour until it was just a light in the distance. The witness said he pleaded with his mother to chase after it, but she refused the offer. Utah Chief Investigator Jerry Cabanis and Field Investigator Corey Collins investigated this case and closed it as an unknown. You can read the complete news coverage on these stories and much more at our website, MUFON.com. Use the news link at the top of our homepage. This is Roger Marsh. Please stop back next week for more news from the UFO Traffic Report.